do not resuscitate. When my mother was in hospital in Huddersfield, I remember the doctor saying to myself and my stepfather and my brother, do you want to sign this form, do not resuscitate form? And we refused. And then when my sister, and then she lived about 5 years after that. And then when my sister was in in a care home, and seriously ill, and the manager of the care home said exactly the same thing. Do you and your brother want to sign a do not resuscitate form? But this comes into the ending of their poem anyway. Your emptiness. Your emptiness, they said. We worship you like a god. Your wavingness, missed greatly in cathedral and on balcony. For we are only worthy to be broken in, used like horses. Your equineness will surely win without even leaving your seat. Everything you say to us matters, even though you say nothing. You reach out to everyone in this great fish and chip Britain. Well, maybe not Scotland, half Cymru, and 6 counties, many in England. Your emptiness will be clapping along to George Formby even as Rod Stewart sings. You'll spare a second for the sick and poor, and no doctor will recommend a DNR. Okay, thanks a lot. This is a poem I read to 5,000 people. It seems amazing. They didn't have any choice because I was just up there on the balcony in the Red House in Merthyr. Like 4,980 more than I usually get at poetry readings. This was just amazing. But although it's about Wales and it's about really about the independence movement, I was also inspired by visiting New Lanark in Scotland and Robert Owen and the kind of model community there. So Cymru, this house. Is there any light?
It's very dark.
I know. I find it quite hard to see the book. I think Adi switched those on when. Yeah. Okay. I'll have a go. Oh yeah, it's open. Okay, I'll have a go. The light's on. Right. Yeah, they do come on. I'll have to ask Adi. Yeah, if you would, that'd be great. Yeah, because. Yeah.
Just ask him.
Yeah. Okay. Cymru, this house. It's there below a dire plien. Ich dien, I serve. Too long gweision. Down in basements and cellars, scullery maids and butlers, deferential and bowing. Let's make this house our own. Not some castle or mansion, but a modest dwelling with grassy roof and panels, more energy than we need. Let's open it up to visitors who wish to stay or reside. Share the food from a sufficient small holding. Share good company of an evening. Let's build a bridge with languages across that stream. The surge of water or dry beds teach us. Invite the lonely wanderers in. Let's call this house Cymru, as we ceili joining hands at the housewarming. No more rent or dues. We'll look to druid oaks, durable with the years ringing. This is a poem called the Refugee Walk, and Mohammed was there and Mary was there, and we just took this walk just along the bay really, and ended up eating all this different food and getting blown away. But it was at the time when a lot of people were coming over from Afghanistan, and a lot of the younger people, I think, were staying in the IRV building, you know. So that's sort of comes into it as well. The Refugee Walk. We stopped for shelter under the solid sails to share sesame biscuits, falafels, pizza. But the wind off the bay whips in its reminder of oncoming winter. Paco, the Spanish-speaking hound, chases a ball all over the mock decking. Here are refugees from war and famine, Eritrea, Sudan, Syria. Arabic, English, Snatches of Cymraeg swirl around as we set off to discover each other. With Mohammed, I talk theatre, Yeats and O'Casey, but Beckett, his man. The wind takes whole sentences, flying. On the walk back, I see 2 teams of young Afghans playing footy near our Senedd. As we once did on concrete squares, strange in their long coatas, security posts for goals, their anchors. Thank you. This is a poem about my brother, who actually did build a plane in his garden. Actually did. He spent about 10 years building the plane, and at the end of it, sadly, I'm not going to say he died. At the end of it, sadly, he had a medical test. He had a medical test, and unfortunately, something wrong with his heart, so he can't fly it now. But look, I think he will be soon. We'll be able to soon. So hopefully.
Hopefully he doesn't die before.
No, exactly. Yeah. Right. Anyway. He's building a plane. There wasn't much in the paper about it, really. Just like a big crane hauling the plane out of the house. That's about it. He's building a plane. He's building a plane in his garden with parts shipped over from America. Most neighbours are excited for him and name him Daedalus in honour. Only one complains to the authorities, would have him ejected into the air. It's his project after the treehouse. He's a riveter, welder and painter. His plan is a map of the universe. He would be a sunreacher. He builds its wings and it expands, leaving his workshop shattered. Grandchildren in the tower of their den shout instructions louder and louder. One irate neighbour phones 999. His wife thinks his hip might fracture. Daedalus has gone too far this time as he taxis onto a bed of flowers. Thank you. Did he say it? Did he explain that?
He's not there.
I have to do it. No, it doesn't matter. Is it? Oh, it doesn't matter. So if I hold it up that direction, just about. This is about sort of education system, which may be worse in England, but there's loads of things wrong with it in Wales as well. And two things. I had an inspector come into my school when I was teaching, and he looked up at all the poems on the walls and said, "Why can't you have comprehensions?" And another thing in Mary's school was this guy who took over his head and decided to clear out all the books out of the library, make it into a computer room, and stick them all on the skip, wasn't it, man? Yeah. Basically, stuck them all on the skip. So although this is a slight exaggeration, it's not so much. Educating for results. Of course, the libraries had long ago been taken over for computers. In some schools, they'd even made a pyre of the old books, including ones on the rise of Hitler. The writing of poetry was replaced by comprehensions which could easily be assessed, moderated. Pupils trained in class to pass examinations. Plato's Republic realised at last. Music was a fringe pastime for those with enough money to buy instruments, pay for lessons. Orchestras dwindled to chambers, and then were mostly bands. Pupils opted out of literature, no longer at the core. It was more like a stump thrown through the window of a car, left to rot by the roadside. Drama was for big productions only, with mayor and politicians invited. Believing their money well spent, they returned to councils and the Bay to analyse results like business trends. It was when we had the language of business, talking about it the other day, came into education, and people looked at the school and you had an audit, Form filling, just took over completely. So this is a football poem, and this is I changed a little bit because it was about winning against Andorra, so it was a while ago. But basically, when Wales qualified for the World Cup, I was 5, and I was living.
Are you 5 now?
Oh yeah, qualified now, yeah. Right, in 1958, I was 5, and I just started playing football on the in a council estate. We had a street cred council estate above Aberystwyth in Glen Park. So this is. I just changed. I had to change a little bit, obviously, because the Andorra might be lost. Beating Andorra, it was a while ago. So like water after a drought. In 1958, while Wales were doing it in Sweden, I was hurtling round in shorts and knitted socks on Hale Nanteos, kicking a ball for the first time. Only later did I play in boots on the wreck, hand-me-downs for my rugby brother, with toe caps of steel and nailed-in studs. Playing was sheer agony and pleasure. Those studs cut into my soles, but I remember tackling the big boys without fear, even then. We'd have running races and even fling the egg sometimes, but my footy love was born on that street, sure as Brazilian beaches. Now I stand in red, bucket hat on the canton, imagining myself a Rambo, Bale or Williams, chanting with drums and horns as we beat Ukraine. I witnessed every disappointment over years, the handball, near misses and the pen. Like water after drought, we'll drink again and again. Topical anyway, topical, isn't it? Got to be topical, isn't it? Yeah.
It's starting off in quarter of an hour. So.
Pardon? I better go on then. I'll see you then. Okay. And this is you wouldn't. To look at me now, you wouldn't think that I was a bit of a terror in school, would you? You wouldn't think that, would you? No. So I used to get chucked out of lots of lessons, but not geography. I loved geography, especially like the physical geography, geomorphology, that. And we had a great teacher as well. And this is about that really. It's called Studying Glaciers, and on the monument to the OK Glacier in Iceland. Did you go to that? No?
Yeah.
OK Glacier. To the OK Glacier. You went there? On the monument to the OK Glacier in Iceland, the first there to lose its status. This is what it says. We know what is happening and what needs to be done. Only you know if we did it. Studying Glaciers. Although we mocked his Batman cape and wide swirling gestures, it was in that school he brought so much alive. We stood around the map and from the contours imagined U-shaped valleys, then examined photos, realities of moraines and lakes. Lunchtimes we shaped whole landscapes like those that glaciers had sculpted, their vast limbs of ice with sawing fists. Today, what could he show us? Receding white, the melt filling fat the oceans, even as the storms would beat their palms in frantic warnings on the classroom windows. His ever-waving arms gone limp with the damp, wiry hair sodden flat, as the only thing left to make our models with would be liquid. Okay, and this is one about Merthyr history, and in the Merthyr Rising, my mate did some research on it, and he found out that two things really, that originally it was sort of thought that about 24 people died, but in fact it was more like 60 people died in the Rising. And also he found out just the names of two of those people. We don't know the names of the rest. There's no memorial to the people who died. So this is about those people. One of the things they chanted was Bara ar chaws, bread and cheese. And also I lawr ar brenin, down with the king. No longer the nameless. Out of the gun smoke smog, at last they come to us. John Hughes and Roland Thomas, no longer the nameless. Shot on the streets of a town that was theirs, where they'd raised the barricades against the cruel ironmasters and their trickery of debts. gripped seized weapons and bloodied flag, shouting for Bara, our house, shot in the back and leg, deemed justifiable and excusable in the verdict of the courts. Men who'd sweated, toiled, bled in furnaces and rolling mills, who'd lost babies to cholera, germs exhaled from cesspits, men whose families came from the stony fields to a place where chimneys were taller than any trees. For all their brass bands and philanthropy, Guest, Bacon and Crochet may as well have aimed and fired. I lawr a brenin, as the king's men hacked down John and Roland like worthless weeds. Thank you. Diolch. This is, don't write sort of much stuff based on doing workshops, but there are a few in this book. One based on workshop in a school and a lot based in old people's homes. No, just one old people's home, sorry. Okay, and this one's based on a workshop in a school. It's called Class K. In that class, in Ysgol Pen-y-Bryn, the names were quite amazing. The nearest to a Welsh one was Caitlin, spelt with a K, like the other ones. There was Kyle, and 2 Kians, and 3 versions of Chiron, Kiran, and Chiron. There was a Kalisa and a Kayla, which had never come across before. There was even one boy called Kayak, at least it sounded like that, and a girl they just called Kay, because her name was Polish and difficult. I wondered if the Ku Klux Klan had infiltrated the local estate. Had their parents OD'd on Kentucky Fried Chicken, or, more likely, were fans of Kim Kardashian? I asked one teacher what was behind it. Afraid I couldn't say, he admitted. My name's Carl, by the way, and they call me Special K. Thank you. Right. Last one. It's for Eric. Comes on.
With a C.
Yeah, normally I read one poem about Idris, Beth and son Idris, and one poem about Pen-y-Lan. But this is about Idris in Pen-y-Lan. So, and I've got to say this long dinosaur word, and Idris probably says it better than me, so I think I need him here to say it, really, to be honest. Dinosaurs in Pen-y-Lan. Okay, here we go. You might recognise some of the site, the bookshop is in it, anyway. Dinosaurs in Pen-y-Lan. Among trees and shrubs, in the river park, along pavements where roots thrust through the tarmac. All the way along the path he declaims, T-Rex, Dino, Triceratops, Stegosaurus. From outside the shop he spies it, a whole display of dinosaur books. He wants in, he shouts out, the book about the hungry Diplodocus, and when he blurts out, Parasaurolophus, from his, I said it, from his pushchair. A woman says, I love him. His mum's just glad he's not into abstract expressionism, like his painting efforts. Imagine, Pollock, Rothko, de Kooning. Children's books are seriously lacking. Okay, thanks a lot. Thank you.
There are certain facts which are hidden in this book. So if you go to the back of this book, it says, if I can find it, my ancestors know me by my first name, Ngale. And there's a reason to this. There's a song my mother always sings. Every time she sings this song, it means she has not cooked. So until the age of 8, my name was More Mungba Ngale, which means the dog of dawn Ngale. Father Francis came from Bangor and decided that I have to be baptized. But this is not what disturbed me. On the eve of my baptism, my mother took me to the local market and she said I should choose whatever I wanted to. So I looked at one of the biggest chickens a cheerful looking cockerel, and I selected it, and she said she was going to cook it for me. Now there is a song my mother sings. Every time she sings this song, it means she hasn't cooked, and it goes like this. Ongo mokala mongo moto. So that Sunday morning I went to church. I was baptized. There was no word from the ceiling that said, "This is my beloved son upon whom I trust." No white doves came to land on our shoulders, nothing. But I was looking forward to going home and eating my chicken. I came outside the church. There was families were jumping around having their parties. I folded my hands on my back. I was dreaming about the chicken breast legs dancing in a marinated stew. But as I got to the house, my mother was outside with a small broom singing Ongo Mokalam. I'm thinking, Mom, not today. So I walked past her. I entered the kitchen. Where my chicken was, there was a little rope. My chicken was missing. I come, my mom doesn't even realize I've been baptized. And she's still singing that song. And to cut a long story short, in the evening, she calls me onto her and she tells me that in order to thank the missionaries for baptizing me, she gave them my chicken. And that was the end of my relationship with God. Because so when I came to Bali Island and I went to Iceland and I saw all of these chickens, I'm like, flip. So there are certain facts which are hidden in this book. But when I met Mr. Finch all those years ago, all I had was my memories. And he put me on stage to come and talk how I got to be in Wales. I didn't know what to say. Should I tell you how as a 17-year-old I had left my country at such haste? Or should I tell you how I came here as a 64-year-old Zimbabwean? Or should I tell you why Father Francis decided to steal my chicken? So, Homelands is a combination of all of those different memories, and it is divided into three: the memories of Cameroon, displacement, and Wales. So it's a bridge between the first part of my autobiography, I Oringale, and the second part, which is coming out in 2025. So I'm going to read from Displacement, and the first poem is on page 30. Because Mola always says I don't write political poems, but this is my first attempt at writing political poems. But you have to understand, I am from Cameroon, so I have to hide behind languages because the wrong word, and you end up in a guillotine. 1982, I was 4 years old. That's this on page 30. In that year, we regressed to superstition, turned to birds on treetops buffeted by winds. Our bird choir masters turned on us, hissing. Then protesting birds, placards between beaks, have wings clipped, have wings removed, claws clipped. There are new chiefs to chew on government bones. Among them is Ngaka, a Protestant bird, rewriting his will, once titled Tears in Bantu Household. Now forever, choir masters, we smile. Afterwards, there were years in prison, fatalities, allied with glittering crobo heads who sit at mahogany tables, swallowing Kentucky fried chicken. You said Kentucky fried chicken. French beef stew, boulangerie, bones of the famous Ekule Kule, who live on scattered crumbs for white-capped head chefs. There is a new chief who brings us reincarnated dead brought forward as unsuspicious Ekongi den vote riggers, overdosing villagers with chloroform. After 38 years, he confesses, Dondondume is my name. Thank you very much. And the next poem is on page 33. And this poem is dedicated to an old lady called Chutia Vera. And until Chutia Vera died, I still thought I was in Cameroon, but I was in a place called Olitsa Gribayedova in Sochi. And I've been in Russia for almost 3 months at the time. And there was this strange phenomenon. I am standing by the window, I am hungry. But there's a lavuchka, a bench, and it became a timepiece. And so this poem is dedicated to great-grand Aunt Vera. There were no screams, no wailings, no dancing, no choir group singing, just an empty bench, the lavuchka. Yesterday, Tiocha Vera was here, teaching me kak vam de la, not kak tibia de la, not kak vas de la, intricacies in Russian speak. The lavuchka speaks of time, knowing when the children will come and when they will go. Lavuchka is a resting place. 3:30, the pitter-patter of feet, children, boys, girls, sitting, gossiping, some crying. Mama, ya hachu yido. Mother, can I please have food? At 5:30 p.m., Lavuchka embraces teenagers. They share one miasno pirog, meat pie, between 4. At 7 p.m., Lavuchka welcomes young adults playing guitars, eating fried pumpkin seeds, semichki, playing hide and seek behind shrubs and bushes, dreaming of spring blossom. At 8:30, Maladaya Jenshina, young women come out in droves, crying of failed careers. Yahatel bit balerinoi, talking of lost love, then, just like they came, slowly they disappear. Where are the men? Lavuchka ignores men. They labor in various dacha, fruit picking, sealing jars of salted cucumber for when winter comes. Valeria is always drunk. At 9:30 p.m., Totuchka Vera comes, sits on Lavuchka. She speaks of the alignment of stars of her 3 dead husbands, the glory days of the Red Army, chasing Nazi across Siberia. Her wrinkles like landmarkings speak of permanent longing. Her neck moves slowly, scanning the horizon. It has been 3 weeks now. Children come and go, young boys and girls, I saw them all gossiping, playing guitar, eating sandwich. 3 weeks. Totuchka Vera did not come out. Excuse me, please. Where is Auntie Vera? Is Veniti Pajalusta? Is Tiocha Vera? She's gone. What do you mean she's gone? 3 weeks ago, Tiocha Vera died. Velikaya Babushkaya Totuchka Vera, great-grand-aunt Vera. You see, I did not cry. Tiocha Vera died of age. No wailings, no choir group singing, just a Russian bench which reminded me every evening at 9:30 that Tiocha Vera was dead. Thank you very much. So again, this is part of displacement. And just like I first met Mr. Finch, I also met a wonderful Algerian writer, Abdel. But now, if Abdel sees me, he doesn't even know who I am. He's been struck by muscular dystrophy. Yes. Merci pour ton cœur. On a junction, we stopped, resting our heads on stones, tired. Side by side on rustling leaves, sleepless that night, we slept. Desert sand separated us, speaking through winds, blowing. That night they blew. Dreaming, building poet garden. Mon ami, merci pour ton cœur. Abdel, Abdel, Abdel. How many times must I whisper your name? Plagued, muscular dystrophy, pain. One by one, I pray your poems turn to stars. Eagles will fly them to your homeland. Purifiers of language mocked. El Sadat, El Malaki flocked publicly. They planted cockroaches on your head, stained the grave of your umbilical cord. Abdel, I shall paint cities in poetry, a vestry for you at 40. You are not an offender, yet upon your shoulder a curse is placed. Mon ami Abdel, merci pour ton cœur. In silence of night walls, of rooms crumbling, thoughts strangling, memories failing, I cry for you. Must I stand in public, tear cloths on my back, declare myself in sin, summon the 1,000 gods I detest? Once upon a time we laughed. Now you do not remember my face. My name, I am a distant memory lost, crowded out of your dying mind slowly. Intact, you left the mourners grumbling. Swallows of Camry greeted you, a kiss on your cheek daily. Your crippling bones glued you to a wheelchair. You die with every wind that blows. It blows. Tonight my pillow is wet. Abdel, mon ami. Merci pour ton cœur. Thank you very much. Yes. And then there are, so this part is about Cameroon, displacement, and Wales. So I'm going to the words section now, and I'm going to start with the poem on page 47. And it's weird because I took this journey again. And you know, on this particular day, bus 18 was empty. Empty. I'm like, there's only myself and the driver. And then this dude walks and then comes and sits next to me. And we're supposed to be social distancing at the time. So he plunks himself next to me, and this is how the conversation started. I mean, if you're familiar with Ely, there's bus 18 and bus 17.
You might be.
Okay.
He's a bus driver.
I might just pretend that this is not from Cardiff bus, is it? This is bus 18. You have a funny accent, he said. You seem okay, he continued. It is this half-caste, the black people born in this country, the ones spoiling things for everyone. I saw Gary yesterday selling legal highs to kids in the alleyway. I have never met a black man called Gary, I thought. Do you know Gary's mom? She's never had a job in her life. Her children look like those in Red Cross leaflet, those children you see in Africa. Sometimes I wish Hitler won the war. Then we will keep this country clean. So, where are you from then, mate?
God, jeez.
I paused. Thoughts like pigeon flying in, then out of my head. Yes, where was I from? A Bantu tribesman? A Bakweri boy? How long must one live in a place to become it? Funny, mate, I am from Zimbabwe. Do you know all those white people who came to Zimbabwe with Cecil Rhodes? Of the 3 million people Cecil killed, 1 million survived. Now us, their great-grandchildren, have armed ourselves with poison darts and crocodile's bile, killing Cecil Rhodes' compatriot one by one. Blimey, he said. How long have you been in this country? Again, I paused. Arrivals and departures mean different things to different migrants. Since yesterday, I said. As I reached into my bag, I asked him, are you by any chance a white Zimbabwean? Are you seriously hunting white Zimbabwean? He asked. He pressed the stop button and spoke to the driver. He brought out his mobile phone. Excuse me, can I speak to the police? At my stop, just off Grand Avenue, I said, thank you, drive. Excuse me, mate, are you really a white Zimbabwean headhunter? The driver asked. We laughed. So thank you very much. That was my experience in bus 18. And so I met Peter Finch, and then Graham Davis introduced me to his poem Rough Guide. But the first writer in Wales who gave me a book of poetry was Mena Elvin. And her book that came out in 2001 was called A Blind Man's Kiss. A Blind Man's Kiss. So I wanted to write a series of poems dedicated to Mena, and I wanted to coin or paraphrase A Blind Man's Kiss. But when Zoe became the editor after Emily left, Zoe wrote me a letter. Not Zoe, actually, Zoe, Mick felt and sent me a letter. Oh, Eric, there's a line in your poem that you have to cut off. I'm like, what do you mean? He said, you can't use the word sun kissing a blind man's eyes because you've never experienced blindness. I'm like, I mean, Elvin wrote about these things and you never stoned that. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I removed that. I removed editorial reasons. So this series of poems are dedicated to a wonderful writer. Umbilical cord lost, uncertainties of exile, soles of her feet saw her sojourn treacherous. In silence of her dreams, a stranger dies, an omen. In Abetawe, fingers point in direction of her bed, her tongue cut. She carries her head in a bowl, sharp blade dig, harvesting her memory. In the uncertainties of exile, she once danced like a jester. Camry 2. She dresses like a sweet-scented garden. Her smile polite, her speech like morning dew, kissing Mother Earth, drip by drip. Aroma of fresh-cut grass, autumn leaves in dark yellow and gray. She is no longer blind, head bowed, earth touching. Grasshoppers and gregarious ants who shout of her beauty. For many years you resided inside her as a memory, not a tightrope, but a fountain. She followed your smiles and reveries. Every time she saw you, she anticipates your departure with sorrow. Camry 3. Rice smile, her garment, clear as light. So you see, this is where we remove that clear as light, which in a blind man's eyes. So we'll replace it with rice smile as garment. Rice smile, her garment, clear as light, reaching a closed eye instead of blind man's eye. That is how she greeted me. Must I define her? In her, I remember childhood. In her embrace, I knew all will not be lost. A rice smile, her garment, clear as light. That is how Mena Elvin greeted me. Thank you very much. Page 52, the title of this poem, the book, Homeland. And in front of this book, if you look closely, you see we've given Mola the title Mola. It is there. And on this side is ear. Because, you know, people who want to write about Africa using stereotypical tropes will say it takes a whole village to bring a child. That can be true. But we give this title to Mola because I will not call Mola Mike as Mike Jenkins. It doesn't flow naturally to me. And I don't want to call him Sir because, you know, you might think. So Mola is the appropriate. Yeah. So you think, okay, you got your bag.
Next week.
Mola means overjoyed, will respect you. It's a title. You earn it. Yes. So if I know you are older than me, if I just see you, I'll just say no, Mola. It's in Russian language as well. You cannot say Kak Dila, you have to say Kak Vam Dila or Kak Vas Dila. So there's that kind of element of respect. And for the ladies, it is Iya. Now Iya has a bigger meaning. Iya means mother of many children. So Mola and Iya.
But you also call your daughter?
Yes, this is so she carries that kind of a responsibility.
Yeah.
If you are a young person, so if you call a young person Mola, it's like you have some weight on your shoulders. You're supposed to be nice. You can't go driving cars on the wreck and burning it. You can't. So it comes with a title that you earn it. But if you're a small person, I will give you ear. That means you carry some weight on your shoulder. So this poem is the title poem Homeland, because when I came to Wales all those years ago, I didn't know what Wales is. I thought I was in England, and this for many people. This is an experience. And then when you leave here, we speak our own language. You speak all of these different things. But I had spent all my life on this earth until the age of 15, learning about the UK, from Chaucer to Tennyson to Shakespeare, all of these things. But in Wales, nobody knew about Ndondondume. Instead, I was seen as someone who stood by the river naked, thanks to pictures taken by Red Cross and Oxfam. So homelands. We cry for you. Here in diaspora, your children wandering barefoot are treated like knaves with no names, chasing gold stones, silver slates, grandfather sold for broken mirrors. Where are our heroes? Your tears, taste of rape, we cry for you. A child giving sellotape to fix their broken biscuits. Did we not undress on the banks of the river for you? These are not pictures of us. Bloated belly, kwashoko, our wrinkled shin bones gained sitting by the fire when the rains came? Mothers of the mountains, fathers of the seas, why must your children walk on dry leaves? Mokele-mbembe, the river deity, the one who roams the Congo basin. Why are our dreams lost? Are they waiting for us in the lands beyond the horizon? Will you open the floodgates after 1,000 years? Mokele-mbembe, the river deity, you alone know where our dreams have gone and why we wander. Thank you very much. And last is on page 53. And I've created this protagonist because someone asked me a question that would I change my name back to Moremong Bangale instead of Eric Charles? I said at the moment I can't afford that kind of luxury. So a writer like Ngugi wa Thiong'o, the Kenyan writer, has changed. He writes only in Swahili and Kikuyu. But if I started writing only in Bakuri, Mulama could not understand what I'm on about. I can't. But I use my name now to have this kind of bigger dialogue on colonialism, post-colonialism, all this kind of debate. I use Eric Charles as a starting point of that conversation. So South is dedicated to the heroes, the people who passed literature knowledge to us when we were that small. In houses like broken mirrors, we are shattered. On Sundays, we sing of love, and through lightning, we see the faces of poets, our dearest departed. Those who had ears talk of the president, a dictator croaking like a dying frog just before dusk. Today, the clouds of Cambria are heavy. In Cameroon, there were no watering holes in the summer. And those poets who crossed the river Mongo were pregnant, coming south. They gave birth to crocodiles, snakes, alligators, centipedes, scorpions, and us. Smoke on the horizon, a new south rising, holding bush lamps. We stood still, and we saw dead poets. Sage Melatipoko. All the debates, resolutions, minutes, and decisions in poems we shall assemble regardless of it. Speak, Mola, speak. Let us all be poets. We saw late Batebison drifting in ecstasy, floating in his thoughts. Peace, said peace. We saw Molandoko. He spoke of Meyaname Mokengwa, Awelidingwa, a pig who remained a pig. These men are gods. We saw skeletons of our grandmothers before they joined the spirits in the forest beyond. Dearest departed poets, in the village behind the great Meolis of the south, our mothers cry their tears for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Moving west is an important thing. Somebody worked out that if you take the speed that people walk down the street in London, I don't know what the actual register is, but it is faster than they walk down the street in Oxford. And then measure Oxford against Bristol, and Oxford is faster than Bristol. Bristol is considerably faster than Cardiff, and Cardiff, of course, much faster than Carmarthen. By the time you get to Haverfordwest, we're going slow. And in Tidrift, we don't move at all. This is the road west. At least I think it's the road west. I might have the wrong poem here. Let's have a look. Just give me a second. Right. And the road west. This is a car journey taken on that route. And the road still west, clustered now with ancient names. They begin with Bryn, Acht, Aber, Llys, Llyn, Llwyn and Llan, the landscape snuggling, the hills looking down. Came here with Maclo, fresh up from America decades back on some mash-up tour of fractured sound, me explaining the random to resistant audiences and him balancing books on his head. The way is more vital. In the end, Alan Watts said, or something like. In the car, we pick up a student bound for home on her parents' Carmarthen farm, the veneer of slick fashion falling from her as the trees thicken up. I got diddly on some sort of 8-track. Cliff had fixed. It's his borrowed car, no antifreeze, and the temperature out there is on its way down, past the lights of the cities, everywhere like frozen stars. We snap and click, we snap and click. West, diddly-dum, diddly-wah. West again, where the roads finally end and the world lies down, but God keeps on, his towers pushing and his spires. The smokestack ran out miles back, the skies are clear. Maclau, hip flask gone, slumbers in the back, books in a bag. These places were the docks, were everything, and the land is scarred with steel mill and pit. We've left them, and the bridges from which they hurled rocks at the Polish truck drivers in coal in '84, and then those towns and cities full of the living, filling their heads with the stuff of nothing, because what else is there to do? We're beyond that. West, where the land sits quiet and makes no comment, and the voices of the wild duck are ever so faintly white. This is what Wales is. It's bigger than Texas. It's fairer than Eire. It's finer than Indochina, redder than Belarus, faster than Andorra, older than Mexico, slicker than Swiss, Frencher than France, harder than the Infatada, more literate than Liechtenstein, as moderate as Monaco, as hilly as Chile, cleaner than Argentina, more beer than Kashmir, more widgets than Egypt, votes Labour like Jamaica, not a failure like Australia, more full of plates like the States, more cloudy than Saudi, more drizzly than Italy, as homely as Estonia, more history than Transnistria, as tribal as the Bible, more weather than the Netherlands, mightier than Haiti, stronger than Uganda, as lovely and holy as Mongolia, once industrial, now pastoral like Norway, much crack like Iraq, as sturdy as Cape Verde, and about as British as Mauritius. Wales, hard to know, and just when you think you do, you don't.
Where are we? Oh, buggery, I lost it. Oh, there we are. 38. Yeah, this is a memory of when I was 1968. I was still locked up in a boarding school in England, and but it was going to be like my last year. I refused to do any work, and by summer they let me out, and I went home to my mother, and I was such a horrible youth. She gave me £20 and said, "I don't want to see you again till September," when I was due to go to art college. And so I went to Paris immediately, and so I got there late for the manifestations of of May, but there was still very much a sense of something big had happened, and this is just my reflection on that circumstance. From Paris, summer '68. The Fifth Republic was still holding its breath, though the CS gas had cleared, and the famous cobblestones were being hawked in Montparnasse as souvenirs. Books, shoplifted from Shakespeare and Company, paints from Giberjean, dropping bedrolls at dawn from hotel windows and scrounging meals at the Sorbonne. Under Pont Saint Louis, strumming guitars with Algerian boys in flame-coloured flares. In the Situationist garret, a 19-year-old sociologist student betrayed by the workers. In the Luxembourg Gardens, head on fire with LSD, stunned by the geometry of the tulip beds. Up every side street, the CRS, in hinged armour, like futurist machinery. Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Oh, Topher. He's got a book out, Sex on Toast. So we are.
Yeah.
Has he got copies?
Yeah. I've got copies.
He's got
yeah,
copies.
yeah.
Sex on Toast got copies. There you are.
Buying them now. Yeah. This is a poem from the anthology. When you work as a roofer, I did a lot of work as a roofer. One of the things that happens if you have a ladder over 3 stories, by law, you have to have someone standing on the bottom of the ladder, just to steady it. So somebody had to do that job, so that was my job, standing on the bottom of the ladder. And like every job, it's got, we all have elements of hanging about, so this is called hanging about. He's up there, making the roof more better, he laughs. I'm down here, catching raindrops, gobbing on earwigs, watching them curl up. That old cement bucket rising on the orange rope to him up there doing I don't know what. The flashing on the chimney, nailing the odd slate on, searching for the screwdriver what he's been sat on, and then having to go back up the moved ladder to get it. Sat on the wall, under the tree, backs to the hedge. Well out of the rain, he passes me a Welsh mint as the late lunches come out of the Beverley. The pavement all dug up. Traffic jamming, that lorry flattening those bollards. We laugh at the navvies, swearing at the clerks behind their thin backs, especially one dozy looking git in a yellow plastic Mac. He's a university tyke, knows bugger all about it, I'll bet, trying to teach them their job. Christ, they knows more than he'll ever know. Aye, I replies, looking at that sore dark spot where I jam my thumb between 2 sections of guttering to rediscover the agony and the racism of a black man's pinch. He gets up to go back on top. It's not really raining now, and my thumb stopped throbbing. He looks at me, smiles. University. That's where they takes your brains out your head and shoves them up your ass, isn't it? I'm going to read this one because I've only got the one football poem, so and it is called World Cup. This features the guy in this, Michael McCann. Michael McCann was in my junior school, and he was notorious for 3 things. One was he was the littlest kid in the class. The other was one day he came to school with what was a skinhead cut before skinheads, because he'd had nits and his dad had taken him to Bowlesey's to have his hair cut. There were 2 hairdressers in Grangetown. One was Kendrick's, which sounds just like a hairdresser, a barber shop. And the other was Bowlesey's. Bowlesey's was the one with all the surgical implements. And when you went in there, you had your hair cut, and at the very end, he shaved the back of your neck with a cutthroat razor so that your neck was red raw for days afterwards, Horrific. And the third thing was that in school we used to have this teacher, and he regularly would cut new pieces of cane. This is the days when you had the cane, And he was doing this one day, and he was stretching, he had a coil of this stuff, and he was tracking it, and he did what he always did, was say, anybody want to try the cane out? You know, and we'd all be like, oh no, don't. Michael McGann stuck his hand up. Yeah, I'll try it out, sir. We were all like, what? You know, and he stuck it right up there, stuck left hand. Which hand you write with? No, my right one. So he just hit him lightly, whack. Nothing. Didn't faze him. He said, is that it, sir? He said, you can have another one, on. Yeah, go on then. Hit him really hard this time. Whack. Nothing. Didn't even blink. So he had another go. Whap. Nothing. Oh, you're like, bloody hell. You know. And he said, is that all right, sir? Yeah, sit down, boy, sit down. He was absolutely humiliated. We got out in the playground in break time. What the hell, what's going on? What did you do? And his hand had 3 red marks in it. I mean, like, well, can you feel it? He said, no. He said, I went to the dentist this morning, I had anaesthetic, and it's gone down into my hand. He said, I can't feel a thing. So, this is the poem. World Cup. Michael McGann's wife has left him, taken the raucous kids from blocking his vision and fled from his fundamentalist fandom. The final row through screams and tears when, to her incomprehension, his job was jacked in order to devote himself to match mania. He's filled the vacuum of their leaving with 7 rented television sets, tuned in every room, even the smallest. He won't miss a tap, a flick or a foul, nor a penalty save or offside goal, nor the rain spray from the back of the net. Every slow-mo will be euphoric, every bead of sweat from a missed header, every cursed at referee gesture. Such is his obsessive vigilance. He's just a tube sucked inside out, teetering into midlife soccer insanity. With his children and his wife gone, his low-paid job, his life gone, his house is a blur of television glare. And when the World Cup is over, what then? Nothing to watch but his empty life. Oh no, he glints. I've got it all on DVD.
I'd like to read 2, and the first one is Bread of Heaven, which is, it won the Dylan Thomas Day Prize run by Infinity Books. But we don't know if it came first or 50th because there was no classification. They basically chose, I think, 50 poems out of the 300 and so that came along. Bread of Heaven. The 64-kilometre long River Taff enters Cardiff at Taffswell, flowing south into Cardiff Bay. Snowdrops writhing, late daffodil peeking before time, a fervent pink peaving through lime, pine, oak, ash, hornbeam. A march trying to convince this land is past wyverns, that some version of pink is washed off blood. I'm a sunburned slap, mottling taff, which monster threw me in when, in time present and time past. A serpent mane meanders a steep, climbs up a castle keep, red, white, green, nurdling aloft, valley, lake, brine. Spring melanges as green, white is a layer of terns, swallowing a sea, the end of the beginning. Morning dew, lifting chapel hush, chittering gossip between the crow and tiger well. Men, women undefined, a rush, a glance, a dance. Driftwood stacked off, February flood, locking feet, plead, plot, connive every trick to make ankles stick. At noon, I'm still a shadow, rat-tat-tat, silhouettes darkened to keep me contained. What came before what, to submerge every ridge, fossil, hollow. Boulders Kutch, compelled to justify presence, cough, let the water percolate cracks. I let the sound stutter, let gurgles purify each bank, wobble each bridge. Does the quarry these stones came from miss the parts hacked? Is there a reckless cat trembling, the grieving sitar, mourning this loss in mass? The sun dips past 2. Stones have as much business with the river as I, neither may claim utility. We mullion a sturdy back to stand an inch higher, quench a thirst, something to give back, a debt to repay. Where home is, in the shower I sequester dirt. Debtors hide in the rings under my chin. Bubbles forage the navel in search for sunburn, lather a mist arching my brow. The let-gone line to lick the mends of a hernia. Evening falls on the afternoon. A procession retreats to each corners of the river like the cleanest laundered sheets. Pens sheathe, keyboard wiped clean of writs, periques drizzled in ale, prosecco, vino. I chew my own skin, tear up the daily bread in all its wheaten spelt, sometimes stale, flatten the pieces for beaks to grasp. I keep the olives to salinate my own cuts. One day I shall conjure a typhoon. I shall colour in a passant red, gather all the plastic from storms gone, clattering the banks. I shall stop asking where each carrier came from, what the river has smeared them in, why a pigeon hatched in the backyard asks me to reveal my palm each dawn. I shall paint lips and saliva, slaughter all memory, flow, feed, be fed. Thank you. So this is the latest poem which was accepted by a magazine called Bad Lilies. It's called East of the Sun, West of the Moon. Yellow quivers inside the light bulb, nowhere to go. A room is filled in slow limbic mimicry of curtains wind-washing faces. Bodies coiling, uncoiling, hands held, unheld, lips smeared in yellow, lips let go, fur curled up in the corner of the bed like a dusky marble cake. Years caught in sniffles I should put away for good. Act in an overstretched play, what to write in, what to cross out, retire as ivy, gossip in ringlets. I'm told the dry neem leaves from back east keep out worms, deter insects from chewing veins, shawls come out creased only from the weight of a dishevelled season shawl of hairballs. I'm scarred by feral summers. The wildest feral never lets the eyelids kiss. I fear leaves losing translucence to grow rings under my eyes, make room for aging in guttural sighs, in dim turns around each room I enter. The hours turning out all the lights, and there is a version of me stuck in another April with the sharpest sting, walking a full moon to find laughter cackling in larches streaking sunlight, goading ants sideways to climb up the limbs of the last teen dawn. Taliban once advised each new arrival to keep off the woods after dark, so hornbeams could creole nights into the embers of a Jewy rural. Buildings and trees could rise to touch the skies, find new feet at their base to stir into the morning tea. Old Ken I knew once said that youth is wasted on the young. I want to balance all my days combined, sniff aster to the chime of ropey leashes clattering flagpoles. Let a red dragon hovel green and white, inherit the world. Thank you.